Breaking news we want to bring to you right now. I want to bring you out to Glendale, Arizona, where former President Trump is having a rally. And you see there, just behind him to his right is RFK Jr., just hours after he suspended his presidential campaign and endorsed former President Trump. He is at a rally with him in Glendale, Arizona. Let's listen in.
True. Amazing. Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month. But I tell you, I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination. And we're going to do that. I also want to salute Bobby's decades of work as an advocate for the health of our families and our children. Nobody's done more. Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases, including autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and many more. We want every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life. So I just want to ask Bobby to speak for a little while. I'll stand aside. I'm going to stand aside. But I can only tell you, I've known him a long time. We've been a little bit on the opposite side of the equation, but I will say this, he is a brilliant, I still think of him as young. He's not that young. I always call him young, but he's not that young. But he is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal man who loves the people of this country as much as anybody can love the people of this country. So, Bobby, please say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you. Now, a few hours after the assassination attempt at Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA and USDA. And these institutions, these regulatory agencies are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies that they're supposed to regulate. And he said to me that he'd been advising me for many years and on my campaign. And he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course.
That's former President Trump saying he was going to stand aside so RFK Jr. could come in and say a few words at his rally. This is Glendale, Arizona, and it's just hours after RFK Jr. suspended his campaign endorsing former President Trump. You heard a very excited rally screaming Bobby, Bobby, Bobby as he came up to speak to the crowd. I want to bring in Tricia McLaughlin again, bring her back in. Tricia, thanks for staying around. We were talking before about what this endorsement might mean, and now we have the picture of it. We have the video of it, the two men shaking hands on stage. And these, by the way, are two men, as former President Trump just pointed out, have not always been on the same page. Our research says that former President Trump once called him the dumbest member of the Kennedy family. And now they're on stage today. They say politics makes strange bedfellows.
It does. Well, they're both former Democrats as well. But it kind of shows the parallels in these two movements. And I think they are two very separate movements, but kind of that distrust in government that I think a lot of Americans are feeling right now. Distrust in many of our institutions. I think that's why he highlighted we need transparency about some of these assassination attempts, namely RFK's uncle, JFK, talking about the mental health crisis in this country, stopping these forever wars, free speech, censorship. That's where some of this overlap is. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot of RFK talk about. That's what Donald Trump will ask RFK to stump for to reach these undecided and independent voters.
Yeah, and former President Trump making some news, saying that he's going to put together an independent commission on assassinations, as you mentioned, and will release the information that so many in this country have been fascinated by and looking forward to hearing and seeing since the assassination of RFK's uncle, Jack Kennedy, President Kennedy. If you heard Galen Druk from 538 talk about the actual numbers and what this endorsement will really mean for the Trump campaign, it may not be big numbers, but you say that this is going to be so tight that any numbers are important, right?
I mean, look at 2020 when it was a 10,000 vote margin in Arizona. Arizona is a place where RFK performs relatively well in. He might be in those single digits nationally speaking, but hey, 20, 40,000 votes in Arizona could make a huge difference. That could be make or break for this campaign and for this election of who wins.
Yeah, I want to bring Selena Wang back in, and Selena, you're looking at these pictures as well. We should apologize. The transmission coming in is not great, but you're getting the picture, literally. Selena, this is an important picture for the Trump campaign. We know that quietly some of his representatives have been urging RFK Jr. to do this for quite some time.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Trump campaign has been really struggling to refocus this media attention, all of this watchful eyes back onto him, and to steal some of that spotlight away from Vice President Harris. And they're really hoping that this imagery, this endorsement from RFK Jr. is going to bring the attention back to Trump. And since Harris got into this race, Trump has struggled to consistently land attack lines on her. He struggled to define her, and he's tried to throw a whole different bunch of insults at her to try and see what sticks. And his aides have been urging him to stick to the issues. Now, in the early part of this rally, before he got on stage with RFK Jr., he did talk about some of the issues in trying to paint Vice President Harris as a radical left extremist. Now, with RFK up there on that stage, the Trump campaign is hoping this is going to give him a boost in some of those critical battleground states where every single vote is going to count.
Yeah, and we saw RFK's numbers dwindling in recent days, where, the bear issue in Central Park and some of the things that had come out. But here, look at this, the two men hugging here. It is a big moment for former President Trump. The question is, Selena, does it pan out into a bump like after a convention?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the data shows that the net effect of RFK Jr. dropping out and endorsing Trump would be really small. The 538 poll looking at the difference between polls that include him versus don't include him shows that it's a very narrow reduction of support for Harris. But again, these battleground states, some of them were won by thousands of votes in 2020. So the Trump campaign is really hoping they can draw those RFK supporters onto their side. But on the other hand, the Harris campaign believes this is going to have a negligible effect because a lot of his supporters were anti-establishment. They were unhappy with either mainstream choice. So they're betting that a lot of them are just going to stay at home.